Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another segment of NDI November. As NDI November comes to an end, we still have quite a few more shows happening. In just a minute or so here, we're going to have David from Canon talk about some new and exciting news. Before we get into that, though, I do want to just remind everybody, if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, to head on over to ndinovember.com and register there so you can get involved in our chat and our polls. And then that is also where you can enter for your chance to win one of our prizes. When are we going to announce those prizes? Tomorrow, right after our NDI Advisory Board Roundtable, we will be announcing our prize winners. And the only way that you can get that is if you enter for your chance to win, is if you are in our NDI November Crowdcast viewing pool. And I do want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will be joined by 3 members of the NDI Advisory Board to have a conversation about where NDI is now and where we see NDI in the very near future. So without further ado, I would like to say hello to David Doku from Canon. Hey, David, how are you doing today?
Hey, James. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting Canon to be a part of this annual event now, which is NDI November, and we have a lot to talk about today. Thank you.
Yes, 6 years of NDI November. We're very proud of that, and thank you for joining us for another NDI November. Now, before we get into our show, can you just introduce yourself and Canon to our audience?
Yes. My full name is David Doko, and I am a senior technical specialist for Canon. I support their cinema line as well as the PTZ. The PTZ and cinema line are really well integrated together, which is why that falls under my area of responsibility. So I hope to be able to support you and your audience, in their integrations for PTZs or cinema cameras. And Canon has been, really successful at this point with our PTZ line. We are continuously expanding upon our product line with new models, as we're going to discuss, and the new features with XC protocol for IP integration and our controllers. So yeah, I'd love to talk to your audience about 2 new models that we just announced.
All right, so without further ado, let's talk about the brand new CRN 400 and the CRN 350 PTZ cameras. Can you tell us a little
Fantastic.
bit about these cameras?
Right. So some of your audience may be wondering, why did we introduce 2 new models in our PTC lineup? We do have quite a few models already. Uh, the reason is because a lot of people like the CRN 300. That's our entry level SDI PTZ camera. People love the form factor. It's really small. They love the 20 times zoom. They love the image quality. But other customers wanted more, of course. They want more features, kind of with that 20 times zoom. They want the 4K 60p. They want Genlock, timecode inputs. They want LUT support, and they want more customization for the custom picture profiles. Those features are all in our flagship CRN 700. So with these 2 models, we are bringing those kind of flagship features into these 2 new PTZ models, and that's the whole reason why we introduced them.
I think that is fantastic. We always like it when a manufacturer listens to their, customers and, not to say that the CRN 100 and 300 aren't great cameras, they are, and not to say that the CRN 500 and 700 aren't great cameras, but now having a camera in between those models, I think is great, and that you are bringing some of those, like you said, flagship features down to the CRN 350, CRN 350, and CRN 400. Can you talk about some more of those features a little bit more in depth here?
Yes, the uh, the two PTZs, these 2 new PTZs, have the same sensor. They're 1/2.3 inch size sensors, and they have outstanding image quality. The N300 could do 4K 30p. These 2 new PTZs can do 4K 60p. The CRN 400 in particular can do 4K 60p over SDI, and they send out this video signal with 422 10-bit color sampling. That's a very high spec.
Yeah.
They of course are complemented by the same 20 times optical zoom, and they have the what's called a full HD zoom feature, which I'm going to get into. We've added really slow pan and tilt functionality to both these PTZs, so you can really kind of crawl those movements if you wish. You know, they can do 0.1 degrees per second, which is really slow. They have numerous new SDI ports, like the N400 can do the 12G and 3G dual SDI, which we're going to see in a second. And then the 350 has 3G and HDMI. And they also have what's called hybrid autofocus. So hybrid autofocus is a combination of contrast detect and phase detect autofocus. And it's really a great mixture of those two autofocus systems. And they can actually recognize heads, not just the face or the eyes. They can do head detection as well. And really just a really great lineup of features that are going to complement our product line.
Now, you mentioned some of the terminal points, the connecting points on these two cameras, and I think those are going to be some of the standout differences between them. So let's break this down and talk about the terminals that are available on the CRN 350, and then we'll talk about the advanced terminal inputs on and outputs on the CRN 400.
Yes, the CRN 350 has 4K HDMI 60p at that color sampling out of the HDMI. It does have 3G, which, as most of your audience knows, is capable of HD 60p resolution. It can be powered by PoE++. So both of these PTZs support PoE, Power over Ethernet++. And a really great feature about the CRN 350 is that USB-C port that you see here on the back of the schematic. So this CRN 350 can be used as a UVC camera for Zoom calls, for any number of purposes that employ UVC.
Great. And then now for the CRN 400, which has a lot more of the bells and whistles. Can you tell us about all of these different inputs and outputs that are available on the 400?
Yes, as you can see, you have a 12G port now with the N400. We're moving up, and the 12G is capable of that 4K 60p out and at 10-bit 422 color sampling. It also has the HDMI port, and it has that 3G port, which a lot of people who are familiar with the N700 will recognize with the functionality of that. I'm going to talk about that. But basically, that allows you to send out two video signals, dual crop mode. And we're going to see that in just a second. It has the XLR audio terminals. So those audio terminals can embed audio into your SDI signal. And like the M350, it does support PoE++. Both of these, by the way, of course, support the streaming protocols, streaming videos, and NDI HX2, SRT, RTP, MP, RTSP. And so they have the full complement of features, both internally and by the ports.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit about, it is NDI November. So we are going to talk a little bit about the IP connections later on as well. And then this slide is to just kind of show you that it really is in between the CRN 100, 300, and the CRN 500 and 700. It's kind of right in the middle, perfect Goldilocks size. Now, you mentioned that both of these cameras also have the 20x optical zoom, which is great for being able to zoom into your subjects that are, far away. But then you mentioned something that I think is really important too, is that you have the ability to do the full HD 40x advanced zoom. Can you explain to our audience what that is and how that works?
Yes. The 40x advanced zoom is not a digital zoom. Some people get confused as what this feature actually does. When you set the camera, either one of these cameras, in it basically just output full HD 1920 by 1080, it utilizes the 4K resolution, the native 4K resolution of the sensor, to allow you to have that 40 times zoom on the telephoto in. So really, it's utilizing the fact that you want to output in HD, but you have this 4K capability, so you really can get far in that telephoto end.
I think that is fantastic. Being able to give the end user the choice of being able to have that extended zoom. I see this concert here is a perfect example, or a house of worship where you need to have that camera, let's say 100 feet away, with a 40x zoom. It's not going to be any issue to be able to zoom in right up to whoever's speaking, whoever's playing that instrument, or whatever.
Exactly.
So I think that is great. Now, another thing that is really cool about these cameras is that you can use LUTs to have color profiles be imported into the camera for the output. Can you kind of explain what a LUT is and how that works in this workflow?
Yes. For those who do not know, LUT is a lookup table, and basically what it is a series of a numerical table that can change the look of your camera. So the image that's being sent out can be, can it be Canon Log 3, or can be a variation of Rec 709 that we support in our custom presets, custom profiles. And so what a LUT does is, if you want, for whatever reason, you want some special look, or artistic reasons, creative, technical reasons even, you can actually load a LUT through our XC protocol. You can load up a LUT in these both the M350 and N400, just like in the N700. And that's really gives you a lot of customization possibilities for the look you want when you really want to get specific about color. And I know a lot of you professionals, of course, want that control.
No, absolutely. And giving the end user that control option is just fantastic. And then also, we're talking about color matching, and these cameras color match perfectly with other cameras in the Canon line. Is that correct?
Yes, they come much very closely. Of course, if there's a different sensor, there's just slight differences that we can actually, correct with a LUT, of course. I mean, that's a part of the demo that I'm going to do a little later. But they share the same custom, profiles and color presets that we have in our Cinema EOS lineup of cameras, the C400, the C80, and now the new C50. So it's great that when you have an integrated environment, and all these cameras can be controlled through our controller or applications with our XC protocol. Such a great way to integrate, multiple camera setups for your events.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the XC protocol in just a minute here. Before we get into that, though, we also mentioned the crop functionality with the 3G SDI output on the CRN400. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that could be used in a workflow too?
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. So the CRN400 has, like we saw on the back of the terminal schematic, it has a 12G for 4K and a 3G. And both of these terminals can actually output different framing. So you could actually send out like the full wide, either in 4K HD on the 12G, and you could send out whatever crop you want on the 3G. So a lot of times people might wonder, what's that for? Well, it's sort of obvious. You can have two sizes. So you're really saving on the number of cameras that you need to send out a program where you want a wide and a crop, or two crops. And that can be very useful to save on basically on gear and people power. So yeah, that's really the reason for that function. The 350 does not have the dual crop. However, you can do a crop on the 350 with IP streaming. So that's, again, very useful crop functions in both of these cameras.
You mentioned the IP crop function, so I just pushed the slide forward. Do you want to explain that a little bit, and how that works on both the CRN350 and the CRN400?
Yes. So you can send out, multiple two streams from both of these camera, and you could decide on basically on two IP crops You can send out the full screen output, and then you can have an IP crop that's basically a tighter shot, or near the wide shot, but not quite the full frame of the wide shot. So any really crop you want, and that can be sent over IP as well as SDI.
That's great. And then while we're on the topic of being able to crop things, you have expanded crop functions, which you can actually take a 9:16 crop out of these cameras as well, right?
Right. And this is an important new function that I really wanted to highlight for our audience, is that these two new PTZs can do vertical crop. So that 9:16 can be extracted from the full, height of that 4K sensor. And so that 9:16 can be moved around, and I'll show that in a little bit in our demos. And this is, of course, very useful for social media. And so I really encourage people to try this feature out when they get a chance.
No, absolutely. And you showed me before we did our show here today. It really is simple, and we're going to push to that demo, but just a couple more slides to get through, and then we'll go to our demos. Now, we did mention at the top of the show as well that the CRN 350 and CRN 400 support various IP protocols, including NDI HX2, being able to send an SRT destination, being able to stream directly to an RTMP destination. But then you also have a bunch of control protocols that are supported as well. And we keep talking about the XC protocol. And I think there's a slide on it, so I'm going to skip ahead. Can you tell us a little bit about the XC protocol and how it works across a lot of range across Canon's camera range?
The XC protocol is Canon's proprietary IP camera control protocol. You can get previews, like image previews, thumbnails, using this protocol, but it's not meant for streaming, just to be clear. It's meant for control of all our devices. And it not only, like I mentioned before, it not only works with our PTZ devices, it also works with our cinema cameras, including the C50 that we just announced. And all that, the image parameters of all these cameras can be controlled, with these commands through XC. So it's not just a controller-based protocol. A lot of software that we've built, such as the remote camera control application, which you'll see in a second, will be able to control all these cameras through IP.
No, and I think that's fantastic. You mentioned a few slides ago saying that we want to make this as cost effective as we can for the customer, and being able to get one controller that can control every aspect of the Canon camera line is fantastic. I kind of skipped over this, but I want to go back to this. It is NDI November. I know we're talking about AV over IP in general, but it is NDI November, so I couldn't skip over this entirely. NDI HX2 compatibility with these cameras. Can you kind of walk us through a workflow that is all NDI? And before you do that, I want to say, I want to give a plug to Netgear for their switches, which they do have PoE++ switches available for this workflow. But can you kind of walk us through both the NDI workflow and then the SRT workflow that you have here?
The NDI HX2 is really friendly for local network environments, and the NDI protocol itself is something that we support through our entire line of PTZ products. It's always included. We do not charge an additional licensing fee for you to utilize the NDI HX2, and the setup is very simple. So for the most part, NDI, as most of you know, is used for the most part locally and on private networks. We also support SRT, secure reliable transfer protocol, and that is also a high quality streaming protocol that is more often used for transmission over the internet. So there's a differentiation between those two, but we really value both these protocols, and we will continue to support them fully in our PTZ products for video streaming.
That's great, and I think you kind of said it, summed it up perfectly. That NDI, for the most part, even though they are working on NDI Bridge to be able to have the camera feeds be able to go over the network, for the most part, NDI is used on your local network You plug your cameras into your network switch, you plug your controller into your network switch, and through that one cable, you're able to power the cameras, you're able to get the video off of the cameras, and you're also able to get the control to those cameras. But then SRT is being able to send the camera somewhere, and then it send the video feed back to a production system over the wide area network. And like you said, these are both completely viable solutions, and I think that it is great that Canon is continuing to develop AV over IP with their cameras, and both locally and across the network. Now, David, we talked a lot about the CRN 350 and the CRN 400, of course, because they are very new and very exciting. But you have a whole range of PTZ cameras that are available, right?
Yes. And I did mention in the start the CRN 300 and the CRN 100, which is basically the M300 without the SDI terminal. It's an HDMI only. Represent our entry level PTZs. Some people just like them low for the size, and then it goes to the N350 and 400, and then our outdoor is the X300, and our flagship is the N700. So really a whole range of sensor sizes and also PTZ capabilities for the customer to meet your customer needs.
So at the end of the day, Canon, what you're saying is Canon has a camera for every workflow and every budget, right?
Absolutely, yeah, we do, and
All right.
I'm glad that you're profiling them.
Okay, great. So now we've talked about this demo that we're going to do. We're going to bring you up full screen, and the floor is yours to show us whatever features you want
Yeah,
to show on these new cameras.
thank you. And this is really not only an example of our application support for these PTZs, but also kind of really a demonstration of the power of XC protocol. So I'm going to switch over to my laptop, and here what you're seeing on the screen is something called the camera color matching application. So this application is no additional cost. I mentioned that both the N700 and the N350 and the N400 all have the capability of importing LUTs. So part of this LUT capability is extended to our application, this application, which can generate a LUT for you for these specific cameras and then upload the LUT. So I'm going to, just as a demonstration, I did actually, prior to this webinar, I did capture basically a chip chart, an X-ray color checker chip chart, and from our C300 Mark III with one of the kind of like legacy gammas and color gammas called the EOS STD standard, which is a Rec 709 based color gamut and gamma. So I'm going to actually, I have an N300 on the same chart and pointed to the same N350 pointed to the same chart. I'm going to capture the image from our controller. So what's really fantastic about some new capabilities that we are introducing is that the controller can actually enable you to capture frame grabs that you can utilize for this particular application. So I'm going to select the controller, and I'm going to capture the chart that's coming off the SDI feed into the controller. So the SDI is being fed into the controller. The controller communicates through XC protocol with the color matching application, and now we have two chip charts. So the M300, N350, excuse me, the N350 is set for what's called a BT709 standard. So it's a different color profile and image parameters than the other camera, and this is really the purpose of the demonstration. When you're trying to match your PTZs, these three PTZs that have this functionality, to other cameras, it doesn't even have to be a Canon camera. It can be any camera. You could utilize this color matching application by shooting these chip charts, whether it's a Macbeth chart, color checker chart, and then you could actually create a LUT to match them. And that's, of course, the name. So you can select a number of charts. I'm just going to select a grid chart because that's the most common, but it does support the chroma circle chart and the chroma frame chart. and I'm going to do an auto detect on these chips. So the reference is the original C300 Mark III, and I am auto detecting the chips on the chart. Great. You can actually manually modify that if for some reason the auto detect doesn't get the number and the rows correctly. And all you do is you basically generate a LUT to match these two. It takes a second to do that. Fantastic. So you could see, just kind of preview, if it includes a waveform monitor and vector scope, you can see, and a preview up there, you can see as I apply the LUT, it actually is a fairly close match. And then I can send the same LUT to both these cameras. So if I had an N700 here, I could also send it to the N700. And as long as their custom picture profile is the same as the chip chart that I shot for the N350, which is based, like, again, BT709 standard, then you could send it. Just a second. Great. Successful. Yes. And now I'm going to go over to my browser, and you're going to, this is the N350. So now you see that actually there is a look file that's been loaded, and this is tying together that whole discussion about the look file. Now the look file is on, and you could actually turn it off. And this was the original. This is the original image, without any modification from that LUT that we just created. So through XE protocol, it loaded up this look file, and now you see that the image, the chart, is much closer to that C300 Mark III image that we captured previously. And voila, it's as simple as that. And you could either turn it off or turn it on, keep it on, and it really is meant to, help you not just with Canon cameras, but other cameras as well, as you're integrating our PTZs into that environment. Now, moving forward, I just want to I'm going to close this down. Moving forward, I'd like to show you that crop feature. And so this is the N400, and you'll see that I've already kind of selected a crop, a 9/16 crop. Like, say there was an influencer sitting on that, Canon director's chair, and you want to adjust that 9/16 crop, so you're getting that full 2160 vertical resolution of that sensor. And really, you can move this around. You can move it around. It doesn't have to be the whole height of the sensor. It can be a portion of that height, and it's all customizable for that. You can move it up and down. You can shrink it, and not only that, but you could switch it from the vertical crop to something else. So if you wanted to, do like a close-up, you could do that, like, say, with crop 1, and just move it to the head of the speaker. Again, this is called a remote camera control application. It's, again, included as part of the support that we give to our customers. It doesn't cost you anything else. It utilizes the XE protocol to control any number of cameras, and not just movement. You could do the movement, but you could also just really deeply, just like your controllers, you can deeply correct the image parameters, as you can see here, a lot of them. A really full-featured application for that. And yeah, so that was really the demonstration that I wanted to do for the audience, and I'm really happy that I got the chance. Thank you.
Well, thank you for showing off the remote camera control app and the XC protocol, really. I think that it's great that you guys make it so easy to be able to color match across the line, and you can do that with the EOS cameras and the PTZ cameras. David, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. As always, whenever we have a guest, I like to give them the last word before we say goodbye. So is there anything that you want to say to our audience before we say goodbye?
I just again wanted to thank you, James, for inviting us to be part of NDI November. It's always a really great event for really disseminating information, and that's really important, because people have to know, there's such a a plethora of technology out there. We really have to get the message across what the options are to really achieve what they really want through through event recording and cinema. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much, David. If anybody has any questions about the brand new cameras or really any of the Canon PTZ cameras, absolutely feel free to give us a call at 800-323-2325. And I will say thank you to David, and we'll see you next year.
Okay, ciao.
Okay, so we also have another segment coming up where we have another system integrator spotlight with TFS Broadcast. Chris Reed from TFS explained an NDI workflow that they did for the Lakeside School District, and Jim had a nice conversation with him about that. So we will play that interview for you now.
Hey, I'm Jim, and I'm back with another segment for NDI November. This time, I am being joined on today's show by Chris Reed from TFS Broadcast. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm great, Jim. Thanks for having me today.
Before we get into this great case study that you have in the NDI production world, why don't we take an opportunity for you to introduce yourself and TFS Broadcast to our audience tuning in today?
Well, basically, I'm Chris Reed, president with TFS Broadcast. I call us a boutique systems integrator, broadcast systems integrator based in Arkansas. And we specialize in design and installation of broadcast facilities, live streaming systems, pretty much everything that falls under that, category.
Woo pig.
Yeah, woo pig. That's right.
Absolutely. I knew I had to put that into the show today. Chris and I met talking about the University of Arkansas and some of the great work that you're doing there in Arkansas. And I invited Chris to join us on today's show to talk about a recent project that TFS Broadcast did where they created a centralized control room for the Lakeville School District that is connecting a multi-venue live sports environment all with an NDI production system and a control room that TFS Broadcast was actually very integral in not only configuring, but building that control room. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about this project with the Lakeside School District?
Yeah, so basically, Lakeside came to us. They've been a long time client. And they came to us and they were working on a project at their football stadium to install a new video board, scoreboard. And basically they had the idea that they would like to build a centralized control room. They wanted to know, can we build one control room to run our broadcasts from all of our main live sports venues? The other, requirement was they want that control room to be able to produce multiple broadcasts at once. So based off of that information, we went to the drawing board. They showed us the room, as you see there in the photo, that we were going to put, the system in. So we, from scratch, we basically designed the room, did the layout, and then also designed the system with the interconnect, to make sure that they can have the connectivity required to all the venues with video, audio, intercom, network, everything that you need to do a live production.
And you gave us a great picture of some of that equipment too. Chris, can you tell us about some of the equipment that you set up there in that control room?
Yeah, so basically, the main backbone of this system is the Netgear AV line, the M4250 series, infrastructure. So, basically, to do a centralized control room cost effective, that was one of the challenges here, is, to do everything over IP. And NDI is critical in that to allow you to do a cost effective IP infrastructure. So basically using the Netgear AV line product, we also use the KiloView rack mount converter frames, which allows us to encode and decode NDI signals to and from each venue. and then also various other parts and pieces so that we can send audio over Dante, intercom over Dante, things like that. So the main production switching happens with TriCaster TC1. The control room consists of two TriCaster TC1 systems. So that gives them, kind of going back to the ability to produce multiple productions at once, so they can have the live stream broadcast for football at the same time they're doing the football video board production, or they could be doing a live stream broadcast for soccer at the football field at the same time they're doing, a live stream from the basketball arena complex, for a basketball game or something like that. So, with the infrastructure over IP, it's seamless to basically, just a few buttons, and we're reconfigured to do a production from any venue.
That's great. One of the things I really want to expand upon there is you talked about the Netgear switch being kind of the backbone of the system. And then you went on to talk about how you're using the NDI production environments and Dante for the audio and intercom. And all of those, the two different AV over IP protocols play well in that environment because of the flexibility that the Netgear switch gives you, right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. I mean, Netgear makes it simple. I mean, we've been doing networking for a long time, but the Netgear AV line, has the built-in presets, if you want to call it that, basically that just allow us to configure the network quickly and efficiently to support all those AV over IP protocols seamlessly.
That's great. And then we'll look at the control room again. You talked about the VizRT TriCaster systems and having multiple systems running. That again brings up another great advantage of an NDI production environment is you have your NDI sources available to both of those TriCaster systems at any given time, allowing your producers who are doing the live stream for the broadcast or the separate channel going to the video display board, they can all pick and choose the NDI sources and the fields and the stadiums or whatever it is that they want to broadcast, right?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And so kind of the more, thing that we had to accomplish with that, so like at the football stadium venue, we have 5 cameras.
Okay.
And that is basically 5 SDI sources that we're converting to NDI. And, part of the issue that you get into, especially the limitation of, network bandwidth, maybe from the converter itself, broadcasting that NDI stream to multiple destinations. So, that's another layer of the Netgear backbone, is that we've configured their network to support multicast. So we're doing all of the NDI streams via multicast, which allows us to take the burden off of the converters and the TriCaster per se, and put it on the network to handle getting all of the NDI streams to the destinations that they need to be for the production.
That's great. And when I looked at the equipment list and I looked at the picture here, one of the things that has come up repeatedly throughout the month is just the breadth of PTZ cameras available that have NDI capabilities built into them. But in this workflow, you actually used a handheld camera from Panasonic using the CX350 available at each of the fields as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so they have a total of 8 of the Panasonic CX350 cameras, so that they can mix and match those cameras at any of the venues depending on how many number of cameras they need. Typically, a maximum of 4 to 5 at each venue. And the real reason that we did that is because, PTZs are great and wonderful, but in an educational environment, they want their children to get hands-on operation of the camera. So that was one of the goals set forth, one of the requirements set forth by Lakeside Schools is, we want manned cameras. And, of course, Panasonic is pretty unmatched with, that CX350 and their newer ENG style cameras. So.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because you hear that as one of the requirements for the school district And so many people that we do these case studies with and we hear from, they're moving to the PTZ cameras to help eliminate some of the burden of the crew. But in an educational environment, the crew is one of the advantages of configuring a system like this. It's getting the kids to get their hands on the camera, to learn how to broadcast a sporting event, where to stand during certain parts of the play, and how to get the different action and reaction to everything that's going on the field. So, Chris, the fact that you worked with a lot of different school districts, I'm sure you hear different demands like that come up all the time, right?
Yeah, of course we do. I mean, there's many schools that we work with where PTZs are a requirement and they work well. But just as you said, I mean, the critical piece, in an educational environment is making sure that the students are getting hands-on, real world experience with this broadcast equipment. And so being able to man a camera and run that camera is a critical piece of that.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing this installation and case study with us, with the Lakeside School District. Before we let you go, we are talking a lot about NDI technology. And one of the things that I'm asking all of our guests is really why you use NDI and you lean on that technology in some of the installations that you're working on. What are some of the features that you like? What are some of the problems that it handles? What are you excited about as you see this technology being used more and more often?
Well, I think the big thing with NDI is, it provides a, video over IP solution that is really unmatched in what you can do with it at the cost, right? So that's the big thing. And then on top of that, the using production systems like TriCaster, NDI integrates seamlessly with that. And I think the big thing that we see with a lot of clients is they're always wanting to do more with less. And so, how can we save money? How can we, streamline our workflow? How can we automate things? How can we, that type, questions are what we're getting all the time from our clients. So basically NDI really lets us do a lot of that because, everyone for the most part has an existing network infrastructure. And as long as we're, at a low number of NDI sources on the network, for the most part, it's plug and play on any network. And so, it really saves costs on infrastructure. And then, with the consolidated IP backbone, like we were talking about, with being able to handle not only our video, our audio, our control, our internet, everything that we need across that network, it allows us to do things with automation that we couldn't do otherwise, where if the signals were all discrete, across, coaxes or audio lines or things like that. So I think that's where NDI has really been a big deal for us to just really get creative with the workflows that we design for our clients and the solutions that we offer.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the big advantages for our audience when you work with a boutique integrator like TFS Broadcast, getting the creativity to the workflows and finding the right products, the right technology, and the right applications to address your production needs are really what the experience from a company like TFS Broadcast can bring to the table. If you would like to learn more, you can reach out to Chris and his team at TFS Broadcast at thefieldshop.com. Number is 866-400-4535, located in Arkansas. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another day of NDI November. We have one more day of NDI November that will be tomorrow, Thursday the 20th at 10 a.m. We will have, let me pull that slide up for you. We will have 3 members of the NDI Advisory Board joining us tomorrow at 10 a.m. This is going to be a great conversation that you really don't want to miss. After that, we will do any last-minute Q&A. Any last-minute questions that you have, we'll answer at the end of that show. And we will also be announcing our prizes. So thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern.